Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome to the 226th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Andrew Normand and J.J. And today's topic is what life in recovery is really like. Because I'm sure people out there or just coming in got a little misconception of what reality is like living clean and sober and living a program. So, Andrew, would you like to share what this means to you today?
I would love to. Thank you guys. I don't know. I guess we're going backwards in technology. I'll put that one on me today. We'll be right the next time. We don't have our backgrounds because I'm a dummy and I love technology, but I love staying clean more. So we're going to talk about some recovery and get out of my head. So if you're a beginner, new to this program, new to just this way of life, trying to figure it out, what we're talking about here is what recovery in this, what recovery life really is like, right? Not the slogans, right? Like not the Instagram version we want to talk about on the outside here, not the highlight reel as some people seem to get it a lot early, right? The highlight reel of like, how are these guys doing all this shit, right? While they're struggling behind the scenes, this is real life. And, the good days, the confusing days, the emotional days, the days where like technology won't work, we can't make it on time to a podcast, like we just like shit's gonna happen, we have days that we can't imagine living any other way, right? And for me, I want beginners to kind of like people new to this program, beginners, whatever you want to call them, newcomers. You don't have to understand this whole thing today. You don't have to believe in everything today, like all these things we're talking about. You don't have to like have belief in anything, right? At this moment, you don't have to like have the answers to be able to fix this thing right now, right? All you have to do is stay, and keep coming back. Stay. Either one you want to say, but just keep coming back, and don't use, right? Like as long as you don't pick up, you got a shot. Because even people with a little bit of clean time tend to go back out if you don't start working the program and start getting some of this filtered into your body, into your system, into what you want to be doing. Like as an addict, we're gonna go start using again, right? And so, at first everything hurts, right? Like everything, nothing feels familiar, even when it's supposed to. Emotions are loud as hell, right? Like emotions tend to be everything in the moment early for me, right? Like when I realized this, like with the drugs left, my thinking didn't leave, right? Like I continued to think and I thought more, right? That's where my thinking starts eating me alive, right? Like when the drugs are gone and I don't have those drugs and substances to put on those emotions, man, my mind, is a really, really funny place. And it's how we kind of get through that beginning fog, like to be able to understand that this is something that can work for us is what I think we're going to kind of talk about a little bit today. Because life doesn't magically get better when we stop using. Like life gets real. And then it's how we're going to show up at that point, because I'm told like I'm not responsible for all the stuff I did in my disease, like all that stuff you read in the literature, but I am responsible for this recovery thing, JJ. And I have a progressive disease, right? It's incurable, fatal, incurable, something else, and it's going to be fatal. It will kill me if I don't do something about it. So now that I'm in recovery, it's on me, right? And what am I going to do now going forward? Am I going to be more proactive in this recovery thing than I was in my disease, or am I going to go back to the old way of life, bro? The streets ain't going nowhere. I was told that real early on. Like, if you come in here and figure it out, try to, and if you want to go back, like the streets are not going anywhere. You know, we will refund your misery with interest if you want to go back. Like they're not going anywhere, and so that empowered me at first, right? And above and beyond all these slogans, because now the slogans kind of really keep my head in the game. Like they really just tend to go across my brain when I need them throughout the day. But I was really pissed off at those slogans early, so I really hated them. And I love you guys. So I'm gonna pass that to you. I kind of wanted to open it up loosely and see where y'all took it too. But JJ, I'm gonna pass that to you, bro. What does this mean to you?
I'm happy to see you land, brother. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. I love you, man. And yeah, life on life's terms. I didn't know what that meant. Um, I'm JJ and I'm an addict and I didn't use today. And I've got a whole lot of options and choice so that I don't. But when I got here, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I can't talk about what it's like to show up here without talking about what it was like before, really, which I thought that I knew what life was about. I really thought I knew something. And what I didn't understand, I made up or, put together the answers. And they were what I've learned and what I freaking suffered the consequences that they were selfish and self-centered. And I did not know that. There were challenges of life, man. Um, and what I did, and there still are. I mean, life is a challenge. I didn't ask to be here. I don't know if anybody, like called up and said, I'd like to show up on planet Earth. There you go, Milan. Thank you. Reserve me a seat in B-29. No, it's like, I'm here, and and there was a lot of good input, which didn't seem to matter for whatever reason. You know, um, I had a rebellious spirit. I had a fearful spirit. Life is, full of question marks. Like, what about this and what about that? And I know that the challenges for me, man, I needed, and I learned early, a drink of alcohol helped me out, and it grew into, a spliff of reefer, it grew into powders and pills. These were the tools that I met the challenges, I was afraid of and wondering. And I thought that this was the way to do life. People around me did it this way. And I knew a whole lot of life didn't, but it was like, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. Whatever you're doing makes no fucking sense to me. President of the United States walking on the beach in wingtips, telling me, to go to Vietnam and fucking get my fucking ass blown off for some fucked up reason that made no fucking sense. So, that shit's scary, man. But I had my medicine, I had my tools. So whatever the circumstances are, I got mine, but it's like the chemicals and the alcohol seem like the roadmap to get through it. Um, so, I didn't mean to become an addict. I didn't mean to, but that's what happened. I never met an addict that didn't fucking do enough drugs or drink enough, to develop a problem, you know? And we call it the disease of addiction. Well, I got it. Andrew said, it is progressive, fatal, and incurable. In other words, it doesn't go away. But what I'm told is that I'm granted a daily reprieve. And, reprieve, look it up, says a stay of execution.
Mhm.
And I mean, we all keeping our eyes open. There's enough that are getting executed every freaking day, man. You know, and more than a few, um, and again, sometimes we get to such a hopeless point, we don't give a fuck. I never reached that point, but it's progressive. That means it gets progressively worse. It doesn't get better, and I kept thinking, well, if I do more, maybe like I'll pop back into, you know, into the solution, into some peace and into some control. But it didn't happen. So I know for me, it was such a blessing. I didn't know, I ended up, washing up on shore. I was thinking about that. It feels like, and it's some sort of God's grace. I mean, what the freak ever, however you explain anything, right? I didn't decide that I've got to get clean. It's like, this higher power sent me a message through, you know, probably another manifestation of my addiction, a pretty woman, right? And I ended up in a meeting because she asked me to go. I was high that day. But, beginning to understand I have what? The disease of addiction. Alcohol addiction is what I heard first. But then the Narcotics Anonymous is so beautiful because it blows this beautiful AA message into the ability to cover my thinking, because the problem centers in my thinking. I've learned that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Andrew said something about he needs to be proactive in his recovery, and he reminded me that like, was I proactive in my addiction? You fucking bet I was. You know, I mean, it just dug a deeper hole, man. I was out there digging and digging and digging, and
Proactive
you
was
know,
our middle name, bro.
proactive, like get out of the way, motherfucker. And I don't care who you are, right? I'm gonna take what I need, get what I want. Selfish, self-centered. See, I didn't know that. I just thought it was the method of doing life. You know what I mean? And I wasn't raised that way. Wasn't raised that way. It's this disease of the mind and the confusion of the emotions, because fear is an emotion, and I thought my way through my fear and the chemicals. It was a trap, man. If there's a higher power, there's a lower power. I mean, this disease, I love our literature in NA says a cunning enemy of life. And when you begin to accept that, when I accepted that reality, like, man, I'm dying of this, I can't use today, no matter what. It's not that I shouldn't use, it's that I cannot use. I can't use safely. I hurt myself every time, and anything that's touching me, I hurt. So the point was, Andrew reminded me, right? I was proactive then, and I was told that if I put half that energy into learning how to live clean, that I would make it. Like it. See, and I believe these motherfuckers, man. When you hear who we really are, that you were that piece of shit, you did that, you know, however the disease manifested and took us where and there's some miracles and miracles in this fellowship, and I needed to see that. I needed to see that. I needed to see that, Johnny A, little gangster mug, man, talking about God, you know, and God, and I'm going, what? You believe in God? The fuck, But pay attention, that dude he had a story, man. He was clean for like 5 or 6 years, man. Got my attention. I was well connected in the old world. And when you start meeting people that got something that I want, it's just not dope today. It's not your drugs. It's no alcohol. For me, it's no nicotine. I've been blessed with realizing that's another trap of my addiction. So I mean, this is full on and open up. It's a reality shift today. And I need to learn. I continue to need to learn. When I hear myself, because I've watched other people say, I've got this, and I watch them. And what they've got is it's a disease that wants to separate them from, or separate me from you. I've got more power today over this disease, and then the all the shit that I'm afraid of. And I can be, Andrew talking about technology, man. You know, I
Assholes.
I'm telling you, the gas pump. I'm gonna go into that
The
now, but
gas pump. That's my guy with the gas pump. I
come on,
love you,
man.
JJ.
But it relates right to who am I, right? That gas pump's telling me you're a dumb motherfucker. You know, that's what it said when it popped up. Hey, you stupid motherfucker. Do you want to use the card that you just put in the machine? And this addict wants to go redneck, man, wants to just chain that
No,
fucking thing.
I want to use the one at my house, Dick. What do you think, man?
Right.
Come
You
on,
know,
man.
but that was, see, I didn't know that was my addiction. And if I didn't have someone in recovery going, and look, I got a couple 24 hours around here, and I'm acting like a fool, man. And she said, "What is wrong with you?" And the first time I stopped to think, why are you so mad? And it's
That's so
because,
cool.
you know, I mean, for real, but this is my disease of addiction, man. You know, that thinks that I'm not enough, that thinks I'm stupid. And the gas pump wanted to reinforce that because I was thinking that that's what it said. No, it was simply being polite. It was asking me if I needed some help. See, there's another little view of that. This addict don't need no help. You fucking gas pump, shut the fuck up. I
Mhm.
know what I used. You know, right? I come in here and I have to battle that. Do I know what's right? And you want to give me some suggestions, and I want to go, no, I don't know about that. Yeah, you might be clean 10 years, but I don't know if you really know what you're talking about. You know, the problem centers in my mind. I've learned that. It's my thinking, stinking thinking we hear about. You know, I need to keep my thinking clean. I cannot do that by myself. I cannot heal a sick mind with my sick mind. I need the help. So, you know, coming in here, man, and being willing and being open-minded and being honest is what we learn, what I learned, that I have to do that every day because my addict wants to slip in and wants to take control once again. Why? Because it's incurable. I've got a daily reprieve contingent on my spiritual condition. I've got to get honest with myself. I got to ask for help when I need it. I got to receive the love of the God that freaking brings the sun up every day and puts it down every night. So I love y'all. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Love you, bro.
Woo, love you, JJ. Man, that was definitely some fire, and so I just wanted to say too, I didn't say this in the beginning, but this is the first part of a 12-part beginners recovery series. And,
Woohoo.
I felt this calling, we'll say just over a week ago, for us to reconnect with somebody just coming in. You know, if our primary purpose is to help the addict or alcoholic who's still suffering, then we need to, I needed to, for me, just pull back on where I'm at and think about where they're at, you know, and get out of myself in that way, you know, put myself into service in that front. And, you know, like for me, I was pretty fucking good at white knuckling chunks of time. And so I had no example of what happy and clean or sober looked like. And so every time I white knuckled it, it was it was angry, blame filled, resentment filled. It was doing it for other people because I had hurt them and then resenting them for doing it. Like it really was. It was not for me, you know, and I had devalued my life so much, you know, like it wasn't until I got into recovery that I heard it's kind of like slow self-assisted suicide, you know, and honestly, there was plenty of times where I was choosing more over the safety of knowing I would live through the day, like for certain, like not even maybe, just like fuck, who cares? Still want more. And and uh and it came up actually in two different meetings. You know, one from one reading and one from another one. You know, I'm bisexual. I go to both meetings and I don't give a
Try.
flying cup. Yeah. And you know, freedom definitely isn't free. But I had gotten to a point, and so many of us have, where I devalued my life so much. Okay, consider this scenario. Your mother's in front of you dying, and you can give her CPR and save her life. And you do. Now, afterwards, are you like, that was a lot of work? No, but to do what we do inside the program to save our own lives, we have a negative connotation and call it work. Like
Yeah.
as if actually saving ourselves isn't something that we should rejoice in the opportunity to do. You know, like
Great point.
it actually should just be called living and not work. But we
Yeah.
don't, because we have removed ourselves from a sense of self-value, like of actually our life, not our selfishness. Like we got tons of selfishness like that, but to actually cherish this gift that we have as life, it's not work. Like, think of this. It's called working out. It's not called maintaining health. It's called a diet. And instead of healthy eating, like there's all this stuff that it's like
Great point.
anything that is for us is a negative thing. And you know, like I spent my life trying to pretend to be somebody, getting so freaking high I thought I was that person, right? But to
Mhm.
actually reconnect with myself, to care for myself, to cherish this life, and then to be able to dedicate this what I've come back to health to helping others. You
Mm.
know, like to actually have a vessel that is clean and pure enough to share love and service with other people for. You know,
Or show
like to
somebody else how to do it. That's
that's
awesome.
right.
That's dope.
Like you know, like like coming into the program was my like I've only done it once. I haven't relapsed, and I'm so grateful for that because I just like it would. My life is so wrapped around recovery right now. You know, like I'm just so grateful for that. But you know, like not abstinence, but real proactive recovery where you're making changes in your life. For me, it brought about the first peace in my life. And I know that, you know, somebody listening to this who might be brand new, who might be in the first couple months and just feeling grindy and shitty and everything, wait till you get your first cup of serenity and take a sip. Like it is like the most refreshing, cooling on a hot day beverage you're ever going to have, you know? And that feeling for that very brief glimmer you'll get to start out with will be contentment. Like maybe for the first time in your life where for a second you don't want or need more,
And you're
you
not on
know?
drugs.
That's right. And then what starts to flow is love. Like for the first times you're using these tools to break down the barriers for you to receive love, for you to be love, and for you to give love. And what it does is it just creates this positive energy where all of a sudden you have a life that you care about, that you share about, and that you're like mending relationships with family members and friends and starting new ones for the first time that aren't commodity based in your life, where it's not a transaction. Because you can't take from me what I've already given you freely, right? And that's what people do to you when you show up. You know, someone's going to help you and they're not going to ask for a single thing back for it. They're going to hope you pass it on. They're obviously going to hope you pass it on, because if there's a fire in your heart, man, it's a shame to save it for all for yourself, you know. And
Mm.
I'm going to leave that there because we can get into some questions. And man, I sure love you guys.
That was beautiful, bro. Like so many things kind of came to me, but that was so beautiful. Thank you, Milan, for getting us started. Love is the
You want to
life energy
comment
from
on that? You want to
yeah.
comment on that? You got if you want to comment on some of that, I'm open to that. We
A,
can go a
a,
little
cou-
more relaxed.
a couple things, man.
Yeah.
Love is the life flow energy from one addict to another, right? And you hit on it, right? Like that moment, that very moment when you're not using and you get some serenity in that and some peace in that moment, right? And you actually breathe. I remember taking that first breath in where it was like I wasn't exhaling smoke. I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything attached to that breath.
Mm.
And and then being able to breathe back in, right? And go, okay, like this is new. real scary, but really, really new and really, really beautiful, right? And then you hit on when we give suggestions, man, I had so many things written down. That was so beautiful, Milan. That was so beautiful. I started writing things down, and then I just went, man, I'm gonna let him go because I wanted to say so many things. But yeah, man, I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much, bro. I didn't know what color the walls were when I got here, and it was when I started realizing like what was actually going on here, and like everything wasn't flowing together, and I could actually compartmentalize from room to room. It was wild. It was wild. So just stay. You ready for me to ask the question? You want me to ask the question real quick? You want me to ask the question? JJ, are you ready, young man?
I'm ready, but I've lost my something. So look at us.
And another thing, and I realized what God was doing here. He was working in mysterious ways. We're all newcomers to this technology thing today. That's why we took the backgrounds off. We're like breaking into like a new series. Like God was like, y'all need to break it down. So, and another thing with these questions, we have some really, really cool, fun questions with this topic too. So, you ready, Milan or JJ? What was the hardest part of being new or a newcomer in recovery? Like, what was the hardest part for you? Tell us a little bit about that.
What was the hardest part? The hardest part was using again. That was the hardest part. We have a tradition that says that the only requirement for membership to the clean club, right, is a desire. And, evidently, I had, what do you need, Book?
I just need you.
Hey, sorry, guys.
What's up, young man?
Good morning.
Love you.
I love you too.
Proud of you, bro. Love you.
And my son came.
What's up, young man?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
My 21-year-old man.
It's a handsome young man right there.
He's a beautiful dude. He's going out and run some errands in town. So
Nice.
Be safe out there. Be safe out there, man.
I will. I promise.
Just my pants with the belt.
All right.
The green card. Yeah.
Good kid.
He might need financed a little bit here yet this morning. Yeah. What was the hardest part? I think maybe, continuing to surrender. What was the hardest part was just accepting the fact that you guys were right, and it took me having to go back again to only knock my head against the wall. That was the hardest part of then coming back and coming back again, because you feel like you've let everybody down. You've surely let yourself down, right? But that's what's so amazing. Milan described in such a beautiful way this love transaction that begins to happen. I know the very first meeting that I sat in, I felt that. I felt the energy. Talkie said energy, and whatever it is, I felt it. And it's the love. I've heard that the unity of recovering people is God's expression of universal love. That's a heavy duty label, man. But there's some sort of power source, right? And I felt it in that first meeting. And once again, it's everything's new. I mean, the first time I smoked a reefer, man, I didn't know what it was. I had to try it first, right? And that's the dude told me. I can't tell you. He said you got to try. Same thing with getting clean, but it feels better. Andrew talked about a breath of air that didn't have nothing attached to it. It was the first breath of freedom and hey, I don't need anything. I'm alive. And I remember that. I remember going, in earlier, hey, man, you got hands and fingers, you're really alive.
You can feel them.
You're not right. You're not under the influence.
I'm gonna take your car because I don't want to waste my gas.
You're good.
I'll waste your gas. Love you.
You're just no waste at all.
Florida.
Nothing's wasted in God's economy.
No. That's gas. He's taking care of both of us on his errands, man. The unity of it, that again, we learned it. When I got here, I was selfish, man. I just took, I took from people, and And that's what I've learned here. And again, it was easy for me because I had a desire to stop hurting. Every time I used, I stayed in my own pain, my own self-manufactured freaking prison. There's a beautiful quote in the Big Book of AA that says, I suffered from a crisis that I could not postpone or evade. I couldn't put it off and I couldn't get away from it, because every time I would use it was on my back and just knocking the shit out of me, right? And I'm going, trying to get away from it and I just couldn't until I stopped using. Stop using. Was that hard? Yeah. Was that hard? Yeah. And it was, couldn't have done it without your all's help. Again, back to that, can I ask for help? Can I receive the help? My disease says you're a worthless piece of shit. You don't deserve it, right? Hardest part is coming back. And in this fellowship, it will blow your mind and you just freaking risk and come the fuck back in the room because everyone, instead of going, oh, you failed, motherfucker, they go like, man, you freaking made it back? Are you kidding? You made it back because, so-and-so just died. In fact, it was 6 days ago that a woman from, Stagger's house that you all know I participated in 4 years clean, man. She did. She didn't continue to participate in learning how to live clean, right? Because this disease never goes away. She's another proof. There's no cure, right? Her spiritual condition was not right enough to keep her from just chipping. It was a little bit of fentanyl. Beautiful chick, man. Her fiance found her dead. Okay? Come on, man. It's like pay attention. Milan mentioned white knuckling. That's, and for me, there was a portion of white knuckling. Absolutely. I got to tell myself, no matter what, I'm fucking not using them. Going to a meeting. I went to a meeting every day, man, because I used every day. And in that meeting, that, the world couldn't fuck with me. My brain, if I'm by myself, that's some questionable company, particularly coming out of active addiction, because my brain just wants to keep, you know, Andrew said this, and I don't know if he made it up or if he heard it somewhere, because all of us, the big copycat motherfuckers, we just hear shit that works, right? But one side of my brain is selling my bullshit, and the other side is buying it.
John G, let's
And that
go.
right on, right? I mean, that's the truth for me. So I
Love you,
don't know.
Spons.
This is how I love him too, man.
Mhm.
You know, and it's how that's a plug, like don't shut the door on the past, man. I needed to be connected, man, in the old days to keep the shit flowing. Same thing. That's why I'm on this podcast. you know I don't know if anyone even listens to these things, man, but I know for me that
Lots
I'm
of people
talking.
do.
I love you and I love them, and our purpose is intended to carry a message of hope, a message of life that is centered in love, man. you know if I have trouble loving myself, but I love this message. I love both these brothers that have a way of communicating, hope and a pathway for me to follow. The value, I love because that's still when I got here. Again, what was hard? Trying to use. Let's be real. This is
Everything.
the easier, softer way, but it ain't that. Okay, here's really important for me, this work idea and Andrew, I've shared this with you. It's hit me. I didn't hear it from nobody else. It came from the higher power in my head, is that because that work, work this program. You got to work those steps. You got to work. It's like, fuck you, motherfucker. I just work 10 hours a day. I'm home now. You want me to work some more? But if I was listening to Milan, it's like, well, do you want to be free? Because before I would get high, right? And thinking I'm getting free. Well, when I do this step work, when I learn, so I trade the word work for learn. I'm
I love
learning
it.
about
Love
the
it.
first step. I'm learning in the second step, meeting in sponsorship yesterday. I learned that being restored, looked it up. It said to restore to, like, to whatever it said, to to the original condition is what it said, right? And me and my dude, we looked at each other and went, what? Be restored? Man, don't put me back to that piece of shit, you know? And okay. And I kept reading, and there was a biblical, which let's change that to a spiritual definition that said, be made whole, be made righteous, be made productive. Like that's our second step, be restored to, right? So, and I don't know this stuff, but I learned, I learned what, a couple 24 hours, man, and I'm learning with my brother that's got like 2 years and maybe 3 now. And this gangster thug, dude that is just the most beautiful cat, giving the most beautiful freaking guidance to fucked up dudes that stumble in our program, and we learn to walk upright. We can look people in the eyeball. There's a freedom that hey, I can't do nothing but tell you about it. You got to try it. You got to try it, and you'll like it.
Traction rather than promotion.
That's right. I don't know if I'm talking long enough, but I wrote down something that Milan again reminded me of. And Franny was of profound effect. She had 5 years clean when I got here. Sort of a big woman. She had glasses, that were real thick,
They need
So
loving too. All of them need love.
she was beautiful, man. And she would give the biggest and beautiful hugs. And she told me, we were in some conversation once. And I know I was grateful, but she explained like what happened to me. I was in a swamp, man. I was drowning in my addiction, right? I was going under that muck and mire, right? And didn't know nothing except I'm going down, man. And and I reached out, for help. I mean, I'm asking for help at this point. Help me, man. Help me. And there was somebody there that reached down and pulled me out of this mucky freaking goopy ass mud and muck stinking and pulled me up to this bank and then started walking me out of the woods, right? Clearing the way whenever we fell into some stuff and I'm following this person. And we finally get to the edge of, the jungle gets lighter and lighter, trees open up. We get to this sun-covered glade, right? Sun is out. The birds are chirping, there's flowers around, right? I'm feeling like okay, right? And she's talking and she's telling me this and that. And then the whole point is for me to get healthy enough to turn around and go back into the jungle,
Get
right?
somebody else.
And pull somebody out, look for that hand that's reaching out, right? That's the whole point. And that kind of shit, man, I don't know. But, when you've been at the edge of almost losing the whole point, and I come in here and you all tell me that my purpose is to stay clean and help somebody else. Whatever my purpose was, I was making up before, and still today, my life has been built. Number one, I do not use. My primary purpose is to help, the next suffering addict, right? Alcoholic, addict. It's all the same, man. We're powerless and unmanageable, you know. And with that order in my life, I've built my own house. I've been part of building a business. They call it my business, but, without the help, it would never be there. So, it's an unbelievable pathway to peace and a pathway to life. And it's all about value, to begin to discover the value of life itself and my own personal value, you know. And it seemed like the more that I'm able to give, the more I receive. And that's not what I thought before. So I love you guys. Thank you.
Love you, JJ. And before I ask you the
Woo!
question, Milan, I'm gonna say I just want to apologize to y'all about this morning. I know y'all are all past it and all that, but I was really flustered this morning, and y'all helped me out, man. I was like ready to say F it, and I'm glad we didn't, and I'm glad y'all talked to me and we prayed, right? Pray, and thank you so much. So I love y'all, man.
You are my brother, and I'm going to love you all the time.
I know, man. I know, but I got a brain selling me
Yeah.
bullshit, man. So,
Mhm.
all right, brother.
I felt a little guilty laughing so hard while you were in such a shit fit.
No, I know. But it helped. It
I
helped.
didn't.
Look, it
I
helped.
swear,
It
I didn't
helped.
feel
It
guilty
helped.
at all.
It
I
helped, man. It helped.
I
Look,
love,
laughter's love, bro.
yeah.
It's contagious, bro. And so until it's not, right?
Laughter is one of my coping mechanisms, man. If you trip, I'm probably gonna laugh while I pick you up.
But like, and this is one other point I wanted to make that that I want to hit on that you made, Milan. That's very important. We want to we will go out of our way to help somebody else out, right? But we don't want to like do anything for ourselves, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
really
man.
tough point where we would do any like we're like go to the ends of the earth, somebody we don't even know, but we don't want to wake up and put clothes on for
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah,
The fuck is what's wrong with us, right? So that's a great
yeah.
point. I'm asking you, man. This is a great
Okay.
question, and this
Wait
I
one
love.
sec before you ask me. I just want to
Yes,
tag on to what JJ
yes,
said.
sir, yes, sir.
And this is something I heard from Andrew the very first time I met him. The meaning of life is to give life meaning. Okay.
Wrote a song about it. You wrote a song about it. It's awesome. Did we told you that, right, JJ? That he wrote a song about that saying that I said in the first meeting that I met him at. He wrote a song and sent it to me like that day, and I'm like mind blown. Like I got to know this guy for the rest of my life now.
No, yes, I've heard the song, and I want to say 25 years ago, I was given a poem that my brother gave me the same message to
Yeah,
give my life meaning, to quit
that's
searching for the
awesome.
meaning of life,
That's
give
God.
life, yeah,
That's
give
God
life
talking to
meaning.
Yeah.
all of us, man. I
That's
love you
right.
guys, man. All right,
Love you,
Milan.
man.
So, what was the hardest part? Man? What was the hardest part of being new for you? What's the hardest part of being a newcomer? Tell us about it.
Okay. So, I honestly thought it was going to be not thinking about drugs, but I was really lucky that, man, when I bounced, I hit fucking the surrender button with my head or something like that. Because once once it started to like once it stopped for me, and I learned about surrender, and it was like, man, surrender's like this beautiful safe that I don't get the combination for my addiction. I put it in there, and I've just been lucky that it hasn't been what it was
Love that.
before
I
that.
love that.
Yeah, it's because it's like it's I'm in the same room as it, but it's not with me. And I call it the Jedi mind trick of the program. Really, and
Oh,
but I think that the hardest thing for me coming in was surrendering my ego over and over. Like I had no clue that 95% of my problems and the reasons that I was an addict were perception problems. And that and being like having these tools of like I had to change so much meant that I had to be wrong over and over and over and over. And I'm telling you, like, I was a math guy growing up, and as a math guy growing up, honestly, nobody was like, cherish your mistakes. They're stepping stones to freedom. Like, nobody said anything like that. It was like, why didn't you get perfect on this one? Like, that's how math people think, or at least that's what my experience was. And so coming in and just being wrong in almost every way and having to surrender that, like, like I was 50 frickin' two, man. Like to think that I knew nothing about how to live at 52.
Yeah.
Like you want a fucking fire hose of humility with you back against a concrete wall. like, like it was just like, man, yeah, like I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie UHF
yes.
with the fire hose and the kids.
That's awesome.
but like it felt like that over and over. Like I remember them saying, "You're selfish, self-centered." I was like, "You don't know me." Like F you, mother counselors.
You're
And
self-centered, bitch.
yeah, and you know what? They were right. I was entirely self-seeking, and like my love was about as transactional as it could get. Even with my child, who was like one of the most loved things in my life. It was like, here's a reward for your behavior. And when the behavior didn't line up, then I had nothing but intolerance and a lack of acceptance. And I see now the level of damage that I caused in that respect. And, I've made great strides to change that with her and to vocalize about it, to talk about it, because not just amends, but actually have conversations. That's one of the things now is that I can have real conversations about hard to discuss things without anybody feeling attacked. Like I can jointly acknowledge with people I love things that I may need to change, which could lead into a conversation of things we both need to change, but I don't need to talk about them, but the thing is we can actually have these conversations and they're not afraid of my reaction now. you know they're not afraid I'm going to explode or walk away or yell. Like they can actually share their feelings with me. But one of those things was acknowledging, just it was over and over, and it still goes on. Man, my defects are not all gone, but I'll tell you now, like, even if they're 34% better, trust me, 34% makes a big difference in a relationship with your wife. I'm not kidding. Like 100%. And with my daughter, it's like, man, we're flipped on a different page. And it's only, it's only sometimes that our strange, dually negative relationship comes into play. And so, right at the start, it was being open-minded enough to be wrong all the time and being willing to walk through that fire, you know? And quite honestly, being able to sit down with the step work and pull that honesty and courage into place to throw myself open to self-analysis. Because before that, I hid behind my delusions and I believed them. Like I was 100% certain none of that was me. And you know what? I'm 100% grateful now that it was, because it's the only thing that I can freaking change. I love you guys.
Sizzle pan Starcic. Come on, man. That was a beautiful answer.
That was beautiful,
Man.
man.
I love you, bro. We got
I
some
love
bacon
you
grease
guys.
going this morning, day. All right, so I'm going to answer this question. So, what was the hardest? And I knew these were going to be some really cool questions with some really great answers after I really started ruminating on it. So, what's the hardest part for being new for me, or being a newcomer for me? Hashtag LLA. Wow, so many things kind of went over my head when y'all were talking. Man, so many things, right? It's cool because I can channel those emotions, and I can almost feel like I'm a newcomer again with those emotions and being able to channel those. Man, it's really a beautiful thing. Because I was so scared then. I remember just being so scared, right? And the hardest part for me, to answer the question, you would think it would be to not use, right? The cravings, you would think, and it wasn't that. It wasn't staying clean for a day. It wasn't the cravings. It wasn't anything like that. The toughest part, bro, was learning how to live in my own head, in my body, without trying to escape. I'm trying to put this into words, the term, but my insides were just scratching and clawing to get out, right? Like I didn't want to be here. My head and my body just weren't connected at all, and nothing was firing on any cylinders, right? Like things were happening, but they weren't connecting. Um, and for most of my life, like I never would sit with my feelings anyways, right? Like to begin with. And then when I started using drugs, I really didn't feel anything, right? I used to shut those feelings off and to shut those emotions off. And drugs weren't something that like I just did, right? Like I literally used from sun up to sundown, like and over when you do that for years, fuck, man, it becomes part of you, right? Like even like the substances themselves become part of like like it's in your bone marrow, right? Like it's in your blood, it becomes part of your skin, right? Like you sweat it out, like whatever that substance is, drinking, whatever it is, man, it becomes part of your like body chemistry, right? And so like when I got clean, I felt like it felt like somebody ripped like the only coping mechanism that I ever used away, because I literally use drugs for everything. Like I use substances to cope with everything. I never coped with anything in a natural way. I was never taught or shown or adapted anything in my life that was like, go to the park, go to do this. Like I worked out, but yeah, but I was high when I went to work out, right? Like I had been using the whole way in, the whole way out. Like it wasn't, hey, Andrew, don't use today and go work out. It wasn't that. It was just, I was just in that whole cycle, right? And so everything in early recovery, when I stopped using, felt extremely loud, bro. Like everything was so loud, everything was so uncomfortable. My thoughts didn't stop. I couldn't stop my thoughts. They were trampling over each other. Um, like my emotions that would come back, like emotions that I didn't even know about, and they were so, like they felt so raw. Like I remember all these emotions like hitting me at once, and I felt like I couldn't escape like the moment. Like I wanted to just die. Like I wanted to just like I wanted to disappear. Like I remember feeling that, like the sadness, depression, like anger, depression, like withdrawals, like all that shit at once, and I wanted to literally die. Um, and that was such an uncomfortable feeling, right? And it was such an uncomfortable feeling. But there's a point when I got out of treatment, and it's like I'm either gonna go to meetings or I'm gonna go back to the streets. Like it was like really clear one way or the other for me. Um, and I choose to think that like God said, look, you're going to go to meetings, right? And I remember being so uncomfortable and coming here, and I thought I wasn't doing anything. I remember not wanting to talk because I was struggling so bad. I felt like I was upset because everyone else was laughing and engaging, and just I couldn't understand how they were sitting still. JJ, I couldn't even understand how these people were sitting still. I was I was like, what the fuck is going on here, bro? Like seriously. And so I didn't think I was doing anything, but then I would come back and I would be uncomfortable again, and I didn't really understand that, bro. That was the I was going through the hardest part of my life, bro. I was doing the hardest work in my life in those moments that I was like gritting and bearing, staying in the back of the class, and the fact that I stayed the whole meeting but didn't say anything, that's some of the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
White knuckle.
I mean, beyond white knuckling, right?
Yeah.
I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I'm just here and I'm clean. Don't even know why, right? Like some of us are court mandated at the beginning. Whatever gets you here, it doesn't matter, right? You're here. But I would leave that meeting and I didn't use, and I would come back that next day, and then y'all would show me that love, right, and build on top of that shit, right? But I remember thinking, how are these people sitting here without losing their minds? And because they're not losing their minds, I'm about to lose mine. Um, I had to get over that. That was one of the biggest things. Kind of another layer of that was like I didn't trust myself. I had to get over it. Like I didn't trust my thinking. I didn't trust my own feelings. I didn't because I thought I was broken. I thought I was completely broken. And recovery doesn't give me those things. They don't give you those things, right? The only thing that recovery gave me was a process. Right? It gave me a process. It's not going to give you all these things, right? We only have we have one promise here, right? One thing that we have going on here, and that's an addict. Any addict can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. And our message is freedom, right, from active use. Right, like that's the only we have a process here to stop using. All this other shit is just like icing on the cake, and it all comes right. But I had to trust myself. And that's where y'all came in big because y'all told me I was like, just come back. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. And as I watched y'all, it showed me how to act. Like you showed me how to like start coming out of my shell a little bit. Like I adapted the God of y'all's understanding, right? The group was a higher power. Like all these little things, like the group was my sponsor. Like all these things that I didn't know is like my buffer zone to like are you gonna live this way? Or are you gonna go back to the streets? And so that's where my head went, right? Like I had to learn how to stay present. Being present was something I didn't know how to do. Being present with my feelings, sitting in my own shit, like I couldn't do it. I could not sit alone without I couldn't. I remember not being able to go to sleep without using again, even though I was already high, because I wanted to sleep and not like think about sleeping. I would use again. I remember before I would eat, I would use again before I ate because I wanted to just have that much better of a meal. Like, and I didn't want to think about what I was eating. Like I would do it just for that. And bro, like, how I got that deep into it, I can't even explain. I don't even know how it gets there, but it happens. And it's like I woke up one day and I was a complete raging fucking drug addict, bro. And now I'm not. Right. And so that answers my question. So I'm not going to keep running. I could talk for hours about this shit. I love you guys.
Love you, man.
Woo. Man,
Fucking
I'm loving this podcast. I don't know about you guys, but I'm certainly enjoying everybody and everything.
Yes, I appreciate
Love
it.
y'all,
Even getting
man.
to meet JJ's son. It's like I've been wondering what he looked like.
Love him, man.
Yep.
He got a haircut.
He cut his
Yep.
dreads off. Yeah, he did.
I see that. He's
I
looking
used to
good,
have
man.
dreads.
Well, when he went through that, and you just described part of what he described: using to eat, using to sleep. I mean,
Survival.
yeah. And that he's been adjusting. We've been going through that. He's been clean from his drug of choice for a month and a half.
Let's go, young man.
Hey.
Let's go. I see you.
Trip.
We see
Yeah,
you.
Well, it's
yeah.
amazing.
Keep that shit up, man.
And he don't go to meetings. He's living through whatever
Yeah.
recovery you guys give me, and we maintain.
Good for him.
Works.
Proud of
Yeah.
him.
Thank you.
Do you got a question for today, JJ?
No, bro. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
That's
did
cool.
all I could to be here.
Man,
Hey,
I'm glad you're here. bro.
I'm totally stoked here. Okay, I got this question that kind of came up as I was listening to everybody today. Okay, I'll start with Andrew. Andrew, what was your greatest fear about recovery, and what did that actually turn out to be like once you were in it?
My greatest fear in recovery
Before you, yeah, like what was your greatest fear about getting straight, and what did it actually turn out to be like once you got there?
The greatest fear before I got here was that I had to feel like this was like a cult kind of thing. Like I thought this was I didn't know how honest and open this thing was. I thought that there were some underlying things going on with like paperwork and like signing up for things. Like I thought there was some kind of like sign on the dotted line in blood kind of thing. And it's really cool because early on I almost didn't care. I've talked about this before where like early on I was teeter-tottering on like I wanted to stay clean. I knew I had to change, but like this is wild what y'all are talking about. And then and so but there was almost this edgy, like raw edginess to it where it was like, all right, well, where's the goat I have to sacrifice? I'm down. Like, okay, whatever I gotta do. Because look, I couldn't stay clean. I could not stay clean, bro. Like there was nothing in the world that could get me clean. The doctors, nobody, the family, nothing. And y'all, there was a little twist of like, this is my own doing. Like y'all empowered me to empower myself. And I don't know how y'all did it. But if it wasn't my own idea as an addict, I like everything has to be my idea or I'm out. Are y'all with me? If it's not my idea, I don't give a fuck. And it could be your idea, but as long as I said it, originally, that's when I feel good to go forward with it. So as long as it's my idea, but that was totally flipped onto its head where like y'all have got this way of doing it and I have to let these things go because I didn't believe y'all at first. I did not believe y'all at first. I thought it was I thought y'all were lying to me. Right? I thought there was some other thing going on, but that's not the case. This thing is rooted in service. Like we worked these steps. I did that first round of steps and I did all this work on myself to get to step 12 to realize that it has absolutely nothing to do with me. And that's why it works. is because it has nothing to do with me. And the more I want to use or get into my own head and all that disease thinking, like as soon as I can go do something for somebody else or be of service to somebody else or this world, I get out of that. And so the lie is dead. Like, we do recover, and we don't need anything but the fucking clothes off our back and a desire to stop using. I don't need anything else to be here. So that, to answer your question, like, I thought I needed a lot of prerequisites to be able to do what JJ is doing right now, and I don't need any of that, bro. I just need the willingness and desire to stop using, and then from there, right, it's on me. Right there, it's on me. Like, the whole world can open up at that point. Whatever it could be, whatever you want it to be. But I just needed the desire, bro. And it doesn't matter what color I am, lack thereof, religion, lack thereof, bro. Like, our diversity is our strength. I thought you had to be a certain color, type, whatever, to make it here too. And I realized that the lack thereof of that makes you just that much more special in these rooms. So that's my answer. Love you.
Woo. Okay,
Love you,
Jay,
man.
Double J from West Virginia. What was your greatest fear about getting straight or coming into recovery, and what did it actually turn out to be like?
Well, I didn't, like I said before, I didn't know what the problem was. I tried quitting. I quit 100 times. I didn't have a problem quitting. It was stay and quit. I didn't know what the problem was. I didn't know I was powerless. I knew my life was unmanageable. I'm oh shoot, man. I had a thought that just left me. This is what it was, is that as times change, when I was getting clean, like, things have changed over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Like, addiction has become more wide known, right? So therefore recovery, like, I'd never heard of recovery. I'd never heard of it. So, like, I didn't have an aversion. You know what I mean? Like if you guys seen some picture of I didn't know anybody that was, had changed, had come out of my lifestyle. I didn't know anyone that had used a program. I didn't know anyone. You
Me
either
neither.
went to prison, or you freaking, or you died, or you faded away, or I didn't know anyone. And so I didn't have an apprehension. And again, when I don't know about this higher power, but whatever my life process was, that all of a sudden I'm sitting in this freaking meeting room and I felt some shit go on. Yeah, look, and I knew there was a problem. I couldn't quit. I couldn't stop. I knew there was a problem. But like, we learn about denial in here, and the easy definition is I didn't even know, excuse me,
Notice.
know. I didn't even notice.
Notice. There you go.
Notice. That's right. Notice that I was lying.
I'll keep you
Yeah.
right, bro.
No, I hear you. Because, I still have to notice. Like, I got to pay attention if I'm going to notice anything. And that's been, something that an old timer told me early on. Pay attention, punk. Pay attention, and it's like, to a degree, it's like, get out of your own head, pay attention to what's going on around you. So I don't know, the question again, right, was stating, like, what kept me from, read the question again.
What was your greatest fear about getting straight or going into recovery, and what did it actually turn out to be like?
Okay. So that fear of, oh, my boy's calling me again. I swear, you know,
You're muted.
He's talking to his boy, I think. He's talking
Oh,
to his boy real quick.
Okay.
It's kind of.
Oop,
Are you
know,
JJ? Yeah,
are
there you
you
go. He's
there?
back. He's back.
okay.
I'm
You
back.
had,
This is life on life's terms. This is what we learn, how to not lose your shit. Like he knows I'm on a podcast, and why in the freak are you freaking calling me freak, 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 right? And it's like, yeah,
That's when
it's
he like
like,
video calls you, like has to get a video call through.
no, but listen, he called me earlier. I had to jump, when you start to share, Andrew, but so, and I'm wanting to go, doesn't he know I'm at the good, right? But what was he in a car wreck? Did somebody shoot at him?
Yeah.
Like, what's up?
Yeah.
So, so he asked me a very brief question. Did you still need me to pick up X? Thank you, my son. Thank you for caring. Thank you. And I got, and right now, again, I went, so second call. Now do I have the right to get pissed off, right? And go, the fucking wrong with you?
God, grant me the serenity.
If it wasn't, and I heard Milan already explain, right? This process, it's the step work. It's looking at myself to where I don't respond. Like I did in my brain. I'm going through all this shit. But when he asked me, he needed my birthday because he's picking up some meds for me, right? So
Mhm.
was a necessary interruption, right? And we want to control things. Did podcasts get ruined?
no.
Did the people in Singapore hang up because
Hell no.
it's
Well,
like
they might have, but Uzbekistan always holds tight.
Always in there. Uzbekistan. That's my people.
no, we'll do the next podcast in Uzbekistan. Okay, so let's give them a break.
I want to do
Ooh.
one in Singapore. I think
I do.
Uzbekistan could be cold this time of year.
No, what I
Yeah.
meant was that we have to speak
Oh, oh,
Uzbekistan. Okay,
whoa! You,
because
you
I
got
learned
some big like
that's
that's
right.
a. No,
That's
are we going to speak Uzbesian?
is that what it is?
Uzbekistan.
No, I'm just
Oh,
making that up, but I thought it'd be good.
Uzbekistan? Let's go.
Uzbesian.
Uzbekistan.
How do you come up with that? Was good.
I,
Uzbekistan.
I, I'm just making shit up.
When you
Who's
know,
question Uzbekistan?
it's decent. I was answering this
Yeah.
question about the fears, right?
That's
So
right.
so once I got here, then the fears, because I knew that like that first meeting, like their hope was that was the watchword, man. Like I went, what? Like I didn't know all this shit. I just thought I had to do it this way. And to, to see the message and to see it in real life form, you know, in-person meetings. This Zoom trip, this has been a whole, another experience for me. But again, like this doesn't stop growing. I did a lot of freaking chemicals, man, a lot of psychedelics, and often my life in recovery is like this kaleidoscope. It could have diamonds in it or just glass and paper clips, but you put it to the light and twist it each day, man. And there's some other just amazing freaking picture to look at. And wasn't like that in addiction, you know. It started that way, but at the end it wasn't. So at any rate,
Love you,
the,
JJ.
I love you too, bro. And you said something that was really this trust issue. God Almighty, man, right? Coming in here and it's like, and I loved your description of I can relate. I know that there's a whole lot of people listening that will relate to your description of just not knowing what the fuck, how to connect, you know, the wires back up again. We all come in here with different degrees of being fried, and that's why we need each other, right? That there is a wrench for every nut. And I
Yeah.
didn't make that up, right? It was passed on to me and it's just the deal. So the trust, I remember God, and I went on this retreat, and I think I've shared this before, where I was freaking out because like some of the relationships in early recovery, particularly with the females, is like I'm trying to just be honest and be straight. Um, and the trusting my own thinking was so difficult. And on this retreat, I had an experience that was mine and to me spiritual in nature, right? But it's because I have a desire. I'm on this retreat because I'm wanting to figure out what the fuck. It was a suggestion. You want to go on this highest peak in West Virginia, man. And people I did not know. So, I had to deal with that fear. There were some people, the few people that I knew, but the majority I didn't. And I was scared. And I'm working on this trust issue and I went, was asked to, and I want to see the sun come up, and my tent shook like at 4:30, to go up on a mountain, and the very the very top to watch the sun come up. It was raining that morning. It was misty. It was cloudy. There wasn't no sunrise, and I got separated from the group because I'm like really in my head, in my spirit, really, like all new territory, man. Early recovery, I'm wondering what the fuck is going on. And I had this experience like I had my face up not to the sun, but to this misty wind. And it was, and I just said, what the fuck? I said, how do I trust, how do I trust myself? And I heard my brain say inside, it said, trust God and love yourself. Now, I've never had that happen before, but that was an experience that I had in recovery that, what do you mean? Okay, don't trust yourself. Trust this higher power, which, the program was really an expression of this loving and caring God. The people that had time, all they did was love me and want to help me, didn't criticize me. Um, Something else that Milan shared provoke me and really so trust has everything to do with honoring the truth, right? I want to know what is the truth, because I didn't know what the truth was in getting here. And and in the inventory, that's what he had reflected on, looking at myself, which is, there's I never did that before. I would look at you and blame you for whatever actions I had to do, whether it was I got to work, you know, whatever it was. Um, but in the, our four step states is searching and fearless moral inventory. And again, I pay attention because God has been, whatever the higher power is, I heard this early that someone, whether they were right or wrong, someone in a meeting with time, and I trusted that, defined the word moral as truthful. Truthful. Leave it go at that. Searching and fearless moral inventory, a truthful, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. It doesn't mean that you're good or you're bad. Okay, so this dovetails into the next concept early on. What was I afraid of? Being wrong again. Being wrong again. Milan talked about that. And I remember that I had to, again, we're not stupid. I mean, when you think about all the shit that we invented, conned, manipulated to stay high and live a lifestyle that was, built in dishonesty, like I can't tell people that I sell drugs, you know. So whatever. Um, this right or wrong is I would do things in recovery and oh, that was wrong. You're wrong again. And the judgment that I would go through, the beating myself up, you fucked up again, you still can't get it right. And something clicked. And again, I want to say I'm creative, but no, to me, this is how my higher power works. The suggestion in my brain said, no, wait a minute, wait a minute. But again, right, this can just be addict manipulation, which for me, when I'm in recovery, there's some shit that flips in a very positive direction because what I heard was, okay, it's not that you're right or you're wrong. Get off that track. Just did it work or did it not work? If it didn't work, don't do it again. It's not that you're wrong. Because, my own, self-evaluating critical brain wants to do what maybe that's the addict part of me wants to just put me under my own foot, and keep me down. So that was really important for me to realize that it just didn't work. So don't do it again. It's not that you're wrong. Keep moving. So I love you.
I love you too, man.
Yeah. And you know, my very, very healthy fear is that I would stop doing this at any point. Okay. That's where that's at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so what was my greatest fear about getting straight or entering into recovery, and what did it actually turn out to be like? You know, first of all, I did not see a group of happy, sober people hanging out until I went into treatment. So much like JJ said earlier, I had no example of what positive recovery, healing, love, all that would be like. Like I just didn't. It's not the environment of the places I had lived and grew up and lived as an adult, or the people that I chose to surround myself with. You know, like I often think that people like to be surrounded. Like if you're fucked up, you want to be surrounded by fucked up people so you don't feel bad about yourself. Like
Right.
let's just be honest about that. But you know, I was afraid just from my white knuckling experiences that it was going to be unhappiness, loneliness. I had fear of missing out on parties that, like, you know, would be the world stopping party, you know, of
Mhm.
not being able to go to parties and enjoy myself. Like I was so party centered that I was like, well, what would I fill my day with that would
Yeah.
bring me joy without it being a party? You know, that I would be left without a solution to life on its terms. Like my coping mechanism, whether it was for joy, for sadness, for anger, was substance. That was the solution. I changed substances, but I didn't change tactics, you know? And the bigger the thing, the more I would do, the more incapacitated I would, you know, like the more I would numb myself. And and especially near the end, you know, like I was wound up so tight that the only time I was experiencing it was like fucking 15, 30-second glimmers of happiness with usage, you know, and that without escape, like I would just be unhappy. And what it turned into, you know, like going in, all those fears, you know, that fear of unhappiness. I have had a more joyful 6 months than I've ever had in my life these last 6 months. Am I lonely? No, I actually have real connections with people that are not transactionally based for the first time in my life. You know, am I missing out on parties? I don't really consider parties something that I'm missing out from anymore. You know, like my life is actually got purpose. Whereas, you know, the using and getting of substances was my primary purpose before. You
Yeah.
know, now it's like I could fill my life with healing and service and love and forgiveness. You know, and what is the solution? You know, the solution is surrender, love, and forgiveness. It's like I'm not missing out on anything. Everything that I feared was completely unfounded because of my ignorance. You know, I had contempt prior to investigation. And quite frankly, I had no desire to investigate it because my own feeble attempts at creating, you know, recovery or being straight was literally just resentful. So I was just like, oh well, that shit don't work. What are you going to show me? I went to one AA meeting, and okay, I completely it was a very miserable lot. I went to, like, you know, I was just like, I went home and said to Michelle, you know, I might be an alcoholic or an addict, but I'm not depressed, and I'm not throwing depression onto there. And every single person at that meeting was depressed, and you know, like, uh, uh and so, you know, unfortunately, I went to somewhere that wasn't joy filled, you know, and that to me, yeah, and I'm just going to finish with this. That to me says, be careful how the fuck you act at a meeting, because when
Mhm.
there's a newcomer,
Yeah,
that could
yeah,
be the only thing they
yeah.
see. And that was for me. And that kept, like, I ran from that for like another 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I don't even know.
Oh
Like,
man.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like you went and said you had some experience, JJ. For me, it was just like I was
Yeah.
just like, holy shit, you guys make me want to cry. If this is
No, here,
and it's
man.
not like that. So
No.
anyway, I'm gonna pass to Andrew for another question.
You ready for my question, JJ?
Yeah, I am. You know what? If I could just backtrack to Milan, take my memory, in terms of the fear, because this is so legitimate, that I'm certain that we all go through, right? The changing of people, places, and things, right? And you just reminded me of that aspect, and because I remember changing the people, and how was I going to deal with that? And so I started to think about it, and this was part of why it it was less of an issue, because I thought, well, hey, remember when you were in like elementary school and you had your crew in elementary school, and then you went to junior high school, well, and you lost 90% of that crew, right? And then you went to high school and you moved, went to a totally different area, you lost everybody, right? So these different periods, I just looked at my life and track record, right? And was able to see that, hey, shit changes and moves anyway. So these people that you think you need and are married to, you know, is like you don't see nobody that you saw 10 years ago. You don't move to West Virginia, right? I mean, there are certain connections, but still, just that perception was really helpful to me, right? Is this is not the end of the world, and in fact, it's proven to be the beginning of an entirely new, exciting ass adventure.
Remember when your parents used to tell you in high school that you won't know anybody, any of your friends that you have? And you used to be like, I remember like my best friends in high school that I used to think like I could never live my life without. And my
Right.
mom's like, you won't know any of those motherfuckers. And I'm like, and it would upset me like, Mom, no, don't say that. That's my
Right.
life. That's my
Right.
whole life. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You're gonna
Right.
tear it out. We moved here to come to this high school, so now you're gonna tell me I'm not gonna know any of these people? Are you kidding? Like, don't. That's my dreams. That's my girlfriend. That's my wife. That's my everything.
Right. Right.
And then we just
Right.
adapt to new friends.
Yeah, but for me, looking in that rear view and accepting, hey, wait a minute, your mind is making this worse than it needs to be. Like it's not true. Once again, right? I will not die if I do not see those people, because what about, Mark from
And that
freaking
was usually
elementary school?
before we started using, right? So I can think about now in our life when we start using and how diseased up we are in our thinking, and then we're supposed to just adapt now, like that's where we have a problem, right? Early on in recovery, because them substances have taken over. We didn't come here because we were Googling the program and we were playing Candyland with mom and just was like, hey, let's go hang out in NA. Like that's not how it happened, right? We were thrown in here, and so we had a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Obviously.
astronaut, fireman, recovery.
Oh yeah,
Like
exactly.
as a
Yeah,
little
like
kid.
that's our three choices. Pick one. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. All right, I'm gonna ask you, JJ. You ready?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about meetings, so I want to hit on this question because I have a bunch of good questions. We didn't really hit on most of them, but how did meetings help you before you understood why they mattered?
Man, meetings were everything. That's why, Milan's freaking experience, God almighty, anybody listening, man, you know. I don't know. I'm a feel good junkie, right? I mean, that's the truth. Like I need to feel good. And that experience that Milan shared is like, oh, I don't want to say shame on them dudes, or women or whoever was in the meeting. It's just like for me, I can't, I don't want to act that way. I can't, I mean, I don't, yeah.
They weren't
So
carrying the message, man. Bottom
no,
line.
that there it is, So again, there's no judgment. It's that because the question is, am I carrying the message or am I not? Right? If I notice something, then now you see the difference. But Lord have mercy, that's a power to kill somebody.
Mhm.
This is the only thing I've ever seen to work. Addict helping addict. It's the only disease that needs to be, this is weird, but self-diagnosed, right? Everyone can tell me that
It's got us
I,
convinced we don't have it. It's got us
it,
flat out convinced we don't have it.
right? And but everyone around me can tell me I'm an addict. right? But it's until I diagnose myself, surrender it, to yes. If I got cancer, they tell me, and I take the radiation. If I'm diabetic, they tell me, I believe it. I take, the medication that fixes me. I'm an addict, you know. If I don't accept it, man, um, I have to accept it and then not take anything, but come here to learn. And the meetings, Andrew, bro, that's the vehicle for carrying the message, man. I mean, and it comes out of the book, the big book of AA, my home group, which I still go to, right? If I don't use until March 15th, it'll be 38 years that I've
Ooh,
got loaded. All right.
come on, JJ.
I'm telling you, man, and I
Thank you
tell
for
anyone
staying,
that's
bro.
listening that, is that I need this program more today than I did then. Because 38, but at that point, I had lost everything but my life, right? Today, I have so much more to lose. My integrity, the love that's been built back. My children love me, the ones that I left at 2 and 5. You know, this boy who is supposed to be a grandson, but he's my son, you know. I'm the only dad he's ever had.
Beautiful.
I would lose that. I would lose that if I don't maintain what I've got. Uh, if I don't go to meetings, this is a meeting. Hey, look here. I just lost a Band-Aid here.
Yeah, you did.
We're covering up. I had some cancer cut off my head, right? Man, they gave me this Band-Aid that was like this big rectangle when I left the doctor's on Wednesday, and I went to that AA home group, that's the only AA meeting that I still go to. And someone said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I was kind of feeling run down, so they put a solar panel here on my forehead." So
It's funny.
at any rate, yeah, it's like we survive all kind of shit,
Where the wires at? Where the wires at?
We're the white. No, it's Wi-Fi, bro. It's
What
just
if I
I'm oh, here it is, but we don't need it now.
put it in
That's
the Google?
See that that fell off. So I'm uncovered now. I'm naked. I'm naked and honest.
Mhm.
Um, the meetings were essential, man, just essential. And because I learned how this works. These virtual meetings, it took me a year, really, a year to become comfortable and trust. Andrew, I've never met you in the fucking flesh, bro. But I
I
love
know.
you and I trust you. Milan, same thing. I've had the beautiful experience of
We will
of
though.
taking this connection, and I believe that we will, bro. Um, but the meetings, and in-person meetings are still extremely important to me. Um, and I had a home group, and the meeting, there was an old timer. Cat had like freaking, I don't know, maybe he had 20 years at that time. I couldn't believe it. Again, this AA fellowship, and they wasn't here yet. But George reached out, and I don't know, it was a few months clean and sober, right? And he said, "I want you to take the key to open this meeting up," right? And I don't want to, but fortunately I had heard never say no to a AA request at that point, but it's to a recovery request. Never say no. And again, I'm trusting these people because I'm seeing what they do works, right? I don't trust in my decision making, right? I'm fucking teachable. I'm willing. I got a great desire not to live like I was, but I needed to go to meetings. I needed to be involved. And George got me involved, but he said, he said, "I want to give you the opportunity." And in my brain, I said, "You lazy motherfucker. You just don't want to
Mhm.
open this meeting on Monday night, right? You're just putting it off on a new chump, you motherfucker."
Mhm.
And he was
I'm
such a
not your
beautiful,
bitch.
you know, but I all that in my head, Andrew. But I said, okay, you know, and so I had to open that meeting on Monday nights. And again, I mean, God give me this life,
You
man.
got to open those meetings on
I,
Monday
I,
nights.
I opened that meeting Monday night, And it was a really new meeting, man. There were very few people that all, there were Mondays that I was the only dude there. And I'm going, what the fuck, And but I went to a meeting every day. I did in the early days. I mean, in the early many years, I still go to freaking a shit ton of meetings, man. You
FO.
know, you know what? That's right. I don't want to miss out on the goodness. When people think that, well, what are you just so lame that you need the crutch of, the meetings and the
Yeah, you got
fellowship?
38 years. What are you coming out of meetings for, man? What do you need all the meetings for,
Don't you
bruh?
got nothing else to do? And it's, I got
Mm-hmm.
so much to
I've
do.
heard
It
that.
will fuck your head up, man. And my life is so incredibly rich. And why would I not? Because to be able to give and receive this love, and I felt it in all those meetings. That Monday night commitment, though, because this is part of it, right? Is to get involved. Don't just go to meetings, because meetings won't give me what I got. Um, working the steps will give me the life that I have, will allow me to operate in the meetings and not be depressed. For crying out loud, why would I want to go to a fucking meeting and be depressed? It's like, I want to get high, motherfucker. Show me what you just discovered today. And this is what I would go to the meetings and I would hear solutions to shit that I could relate with. And then shit hadn't happened to me yet. I would be grateful. I'm really glad I'm not that dude. Because as fucked up as I feel, that guy's really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you wouldn't want to step on that guy. You still want to help him, but like I remember I called my sponsor one time. I was in a bad way, and early on, and I called him and said, Barry, can I stop by? And I heard him. He took a big deep sigh and said, if you have to. And I'm going, holy shit, bro, you're my sponsor. You're supposed to save my ass. And I went by his house and we talked, and he explained what had gone on earlier in the evening. And I left there going, fuck, I'm so happy I'm not him. You know, he solved my problem by sharing with me his problems. It put my shit in perspective, which is what meetings do. They put me in perspective. I can't live on the fellowship alone, but it's the reason that I went to a book study. I went to a step study. There was a traditions meeting at that time. There was a meeting built on the meditation book Reflections. The literature, I heard early on to read the literature, not the people, you know. And so meetings were essential. And me being involved in that, in my first home group, being the secretary and the treasurer, right? Like, you know, and I have found that 20% of the people do 80% of the work, and they're the motherfuckers that are high. That's simple. You want this shit to work for you, you fucking do what 20% of the people are doing, man. And you'll fucking,
And
you know, I hear you. But what else about that meeting? I think this was again, for me, pay attention, bitch, because here Monday night, right? And there came a time months into my service work to Monday night that, the Stray Cat Cafe, I used to freaking pay the mortgage there, man. And I used to pitch darts down there, man. And the fucked her up I would get, I would split your dart and I would kick your ass. And I was good, you know. And well, dart night came up on Monday night. And I got a call, hey JJ, you know, would you be on my team? And I'm thinking, wow,
mm,
man, and of course it probably started at 8 o'clock so I had a decision to make. What were you going to do? What were you going to do? And I'm thinking, hey, I could go down there and just drink Coke. I feel good. I got this. I got this. Again, I don't know, but without my higher power, man, I wouldn't be here, because my addiction was saying, hey, man, you're sitting up here, the meeting, sometimes there's 5, 10 people, sometimes there's nobody, you know, it's a waste of your time. You get down there and I can be a hero. Hey, JJ's here. Watch you split the fucking dart, right? Right. I mean,
yeah,
that's part of
yep.
like, where's my value? I feel worthless. There's no action. What's going on? Calling me loud. Come on down Monday night, man. Hey, it's only lasts for 3 months. You can come back to your AA home group. It'll be all right.
And JJ, bro, I love you so much. We got 10 minutes. We're on a time crunch. We're gonna get the last two answers in. I just want you to wrap it up. We're gonna get our last two answers in because we got a hard out in 10 minutes. I love
I
you.
love you. I love
I
you. I
love you
know
so much.
these 2 hours go so quick. Hey, the simple truth is that meeting saved my life, right? If that home group was on Wednesday, I'd have gone to Dark Night Monday night. I didn't go. I was so
Freedom or
grateful.
darts?
I was so grateful for what I received in that meeting. I couldn't go. So thank you for letting me share.
All right, Milan, you ready? How
Ooh.
did meetings help you before you understood why they mattered?
Well, so I told you about my first meeting experience there, and this is how different the world looks with an open mind. I was so ready for change and had no clue, what that change was going to look like. When I went into jail, the treatment center, like I thought I literally showed up and said, "Hi, inmate Starcic here." And I thought, I was like, they're like, "The door's unlocked, buddy. You can leave whenever you want."
No cavity
But
search? Hold on, what?
But, we either did a meeting in there or we went out to a meeting. We went out to like 3 meetings a week, I think it was, when we were in there. And then did the rest in there. But it was like instantly, with an open mind, meetings were like the most cherished part of my day. Like it was literally where I got the juice from somebody who was further ahead from me. And, like the first meeting we went to, it was like a podium meeting. I was a slithering bag of crying crap, but I got up there and just said something because they asked me, and, and it was like, for the first time in my life, I felt like I was able to get vulnerable, and it built a sense of trust inside the recovery community for me. Like you were talking about that lack of trust. And I didn't have a trust for what I thought, but I certainly had trust for what somebody was saying, who had 20, 30 years at these meetings. Like the second meeting we went to was a 16-year cake. And I was just like, look at all these happy, straight people. Like they're not lying. They're not lying. Like they were actually just like standing outside, laughing, smoking, whatever. But it was, and so the meetings for me became a source of education, of connection building, community. It gave me a chance to discuss my personal experiences and kind of see how stupid some of them sounded when I said them out loud. Like some things were good and some things were like, oh, okay, like, and then, it was a source for finding sponsors, for continuing my guidance. And then when I got out of treatment, like I was so bubble wrapped, I was like scared shitless. What am I going to do without meetings? You know what I mean? And so they were a place of safety. They're a place of safety. I'm going to leave that there, but I love you guys.
Yes.
And I have nothing but gratitude and love in my heart for us to be here together today.
I love you, man. I love you, man. We brought it together. I'm going to get through this quick. So how did meetings help me before I understood why they mattered? I think we should do a podcast on meetings.
We never have. You know what?
I think
we should do one. Yeah, in the beginner series. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's do it.
2 weeks from today.
Let's do it. Because in the beginning, meetings helped me in ways I couldn't even recognize at first. So many ways, right? When I came in here, I was so confused, right? I was so uncomfortable and unsure, like if this was going to work for me. But what these meetings gave me was structure. So very simple. My life before I got here into these meetings, I had no structure. It was all chaos. It was all reaction. It was all survival. Meetings gave me something solid in my day, a place to be, a time to show up, some kind of structure, a routine that did not involve using drugs. And they were like, if you could just get to this meeting next day, that's why it's so important to have that home group. It's so underrated here. We'll talk about a home group, a place that you feel at home at, something that hopefully they meet every day or every week or something. There's some kind of structure that keeps you accountable every day. Like that's why I have meeting makers every fucking day we meet, right? I used every day. I got to go to meetings every day. Even when I didn't hear a word that was shared in these meetings, guys, this is what's really important. Being in the room mattered. Just being there mattered, right? Sitting in a chair, listening to voices of people that finally understood me mattered. It made so much of a difference early on, right? Like, these people understood me in ways that nobody else did. And I didn't even know that at that point, right? And so something very quiet and powerful happened. I used to control everything. I remember like having to control like time and all that other stuff. I remember the first time I was in a meeting and I didn't look at the clock. I'm gonna let that sink in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let that sink in. I didn't look at the clock. I wasn't trying to leave.
I hate when I'm facing the clock. Let's just be honest.
Bro, and that was a shift for me when I stopped looking at that clock and I realized, bro, this is something that could work for me. You know, I used to struggle with attention. Man, my mind would race, right? I planned escape routes all the time. I was in escape, bro. I had 10 escape routes ready to go at all times.
I hear you.
And when I was finally, you're talking about what meetings did for me. I didn't need an escape route anymore, JJ.
No.
Bro, I didn't have to watch that clock anymore, man. I just had to stay clean, right, and get to this meeting tomorrow, right? And then let's talk about it. If you got some problems in between, let's talk about it. It brings me to tears right now because bro, that shit is everything.
Yeah.
So meetings, right? 90 and 90. Let's just say do a 90 and 90, brother. The rest is going to work itself out. That's not 90 meetings in 5 days. You go to 90 meetings in 5 days, that's fine. But 90 meetings in the span of 90 days, bro. The rest is going to work itself out. You're going to meet some people that are going to pump you up, are going to love you back to life, right? And give you some skin in the game and show you like you can do this thing too. Like it is possible to live and want to do things and live a life without using drugs all day, right? It is possible, bro. So I'll leave it at that. I know we're strapped for time, man. I love you too, man. Thank you for.
Love you, man.
I certainly love you guys. I'm really grateful that you guys were willing to jump in towards, the beginners series here. Everybody out there, this is part 1 of the beginners series. There's going to be 12. The next one with us 3 is going to be meetings as the topic. I love you guys. Have a great
love
day.
You, JJ. Love you, Milan.
Yeah.
And
everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye. Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.